Hi, I'm Jake Ray, and today on the Student Slant, we talked to Alexandria King about her article on the ending of the physical education major at Ohio State.
So, I had just turned in my first ideas for Nicole Craft's COM 2221 first article, and they were all pretty bad, but I didn't know that yet. So, the next day, I was eating lunch with one of my friends, and she casually mentioned to me that her fiance's teacher told him that his entire major was getting canceled. And I said, "Oh, okay. So that's kind of interesting." But I wasn't sure if anyone else would really be interested in it. You know, there were only I think she said 12 or so people in the major. So I was sitting in class, and Nicole told us that we all had some problems coming up with ideas. So she told us to brainstorm and come up with a new idea to pitch during that class. So I asked Jake if he thought it was newsworthy that the physical education, teacher education program was being canceled, and it turns out it was. I'm Alexandria King.
My name's Zach Varda.
And I'm Jake Ray, and this is the Student Slant. First ever article you've ever written, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is just amazing that you got in the front page of the Lantern out of 2221, which, first of all, I never had even put a story in 2221 throughout the whole entire semester. So first story, coming in, having the confidence to do that, and then getting on the front page, what's that like?
It feels good. It kind of makes me feel a little bit validated in my skills as a writer, because I think part of the reason I never really pursued journalism before this is because I was worried that maybe I wasn't as skilled at writing or as confident with writing as I thought, and I was just nervous about that. So taking 2221 has really helped me to feel like I do know what I'm doing, that I am kind of competent when it comes to journalism. And so yeah, this felt really good to be able to do this during this class.
2221 is a pretty daunting's not the word, but
Oh no, I'd say daunting.
it's a heavy class in the sense that you're learning a lot of new stuff. Even I came in knowing I want to do journalism and loving writing, but AP style was completely new to me. I'm wondering what it was like to get such a big story while you're also just trying to learn the fundamentals, and what hurdles you hit, and maybe some of the difficulties you had to overcome, and that you were not only trying to pursue a big story, but you were also trying to just learn the fundamentals of writing for a newspaper.
Yeah, and also just getting your first article in.
Yeah.
I remember when we started, we were pitching these stories, Alexandria came up and said, I think the physical education major's ending. And I was like, what do you mean? How do you know that? Well, my friend told me that. And I was like, okay, well, we need to tell Nicole this. So he told Nicole, and Nicole immediately was just like, Alexandria, go tell the Lantern right now.
She said, "Get up, come on, we're gonna go to the Lantern."
So yeah, then what's that like with Zach? Like what Zach said.
Well, I do feel lucky that I have already kind of had a background in AP style because of writing for strategic communication. We had AP style quizzes in there, so yeah, I've already kind of learned that previously. So the AP style wasn't really the hardest, but learning to, I'd say not the inverted pyramid itself was difficult when I was writing this, but the way you organize a news story is so different than any academic writing I've ever done. And even this article that got published, some of my paragraphs got moved around just because I guess I didn't understand completely the order to put them in. Yeah, also, Nicole's class is kind of not overwhelming, but like you said, daunting. And learning to interview as I was having to interview people for this article was a lot to take on.
How did you feel? Because I know a lot about the background of this because, like you said earlier, I am your TA for this class. So, how did it feel going in for those interviews? And you had a lot of trouble with those interviews. So, I guess go into a little bit how you handled professors not wanting to talk to you, people from the school not wanting to talk to you, and issues coming in with something that a lot of people really didn't want to discuss because of a major's ending. People don't
Mhm.
want it to end, and they had some trouble talking about it. And how did you handle that as a brand new reporter?
Yeah, that was definitely intimidating at first to just be completely shut down. The first professor that I emailed, asking if she'd be willing to confirm the information, first of all, because I didn't have any official confirmation that it was true. I asked if she could confirm if it was true or not and if she'd be willing to speak with me. She didn't respond for a few days, so I sent her a follow up, and she immediately responded and just said, I do not wish to talk about this right now. So that was really intimidating that she just completely shut me down. It really made me discouraged from emailing other professors. I was really kind of nervous about that. So I just told her thank you, and if you do feel like talking about it anytime soon, please let me know. And I just had to tell myself that I had to have a source, so I had to keep trying. I kept emailing other professors, didn't get really any responses, got turned down a few more times until eventually I was just told that the entire college was not willing to give me any information or to do any interviews with me. So, yeah, that didn't feel great. I wasn't stoked about that. I had to reach out of the population of students and faculty and try to speak to an alum about it, which was also, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
no, you're fine. It's obviously nerve wracking.
Mhm.
The first article is always.
Yeah, that was my first interview. The first source I'd ever had for an article was Don Kane at Columbus City Schools.
You ended up finding an alum in a pretty powerful position. I don't know if powerful is right, but important position, especially in Columbus City Schools. What was the process, I guess, of finding him and then talking to him? Like you said, it was your first interview ever, so that's a pretty important person to talk to first time out. But how did you go about finding out that there was an OSU alum in this position? Because for a lot of journalists, we try to talk about like tips for student journalists on this podcast, and for a lot of journalists, finding that source that's like that great source, but kind of is outside of the initial box is can be tough. And you found a really good one, so I'm just kind of wondering how you went about doing that.
Yeah, well, this is just kind of a perfect anecdote for Nicole's class because earlier in the day, she had been teaching us about how to find sources and showing us a lot of resources online to find people to talk to. And, she talked about how LinkedIn is a really important social media
Mhm.
source. So I made my LinkedIn account in class that day. While she was talking, I was there setting up my profile, and I found the group or community for the Pete major, and I just looked at who was in it and anyone who was in the Columbus area. And I just saw his name and where he worked, and I just searched him on Google and found his page at the Columbus City Schools website.
And not only that, you also had to talk to the comm department, a lot of different comm positions at Ohio State. Uh, I know you contacted Ben Johnson, and he kind of passed you along to someone else. He got you a memo from the chair of the Department of Human Sciences, announcing that this major would be ending. And what was it like going out and having to talk to a comm team at a major university again on your first article? You did a lot of firsts that I feel like most of us do over several articles, and having to deal with sources that don't want to cooperate, having to find another large source from I would say LinkedIn's not a super useful, no, not super useful, super common way to find a source at Ohio State. Um, and then also having to talk to the comm department where not many people have to deal with that all in their first article. So I guess what is all that like having to do what a journalist who personally for me, I did not have to do all that in one single article. So how was that having to juggle all of that for the first article, and do you think that'll help you going forward?
Honestly, it was kind of fun, and I would almost say exhilarating to have all of this thrown at me all at once for my first article because, I mean, like you said, I just started doing this. This is my first semester taking any kind of journalism class, and it's like I just got to experience all of the fun parts of it and the frustrating parts of it all at once. So I think that, yeah, I think it'll help me moving forward, just because I think I got to dip my toes in the water of several parts of it, and now I just kind of will know what to expect more as I go forward.
Getting into the meat of the story, we always talk about trying to incorporate emotion into our story. And this is like an administrative story, but it obviously has that strong emotional aspect. And especially, I think it came out in the quote you ended with, where the student said that physical education will always be worth fighting for. I'm wondering how you came about finding the students that were willing to talk to you, because I'm sure students feel certain pressure when the school won't talk about it, that maybe they don't want to talk about it, and how you incorporated emotion. Like, you need to get the straight news out on this story and the administrative decisions, but you also need to make readers care, and you kind of struck a nice balance with that. So I'm just kind of wondering your experiences with that, again, on your first article.
Yeah, well, luckily, I already knew this person that I interviewed, John. He's my friend's fiance. So, it just so happened he was in the major, so that was really helpful. But he was definitely nervous about being quoted in the article about his major ending, because since the college hadn't announced anything and it was only his teacher, he was just really, yeah, he was very nervous about that. I thought that it was really important to include an emotional aspect to this, because Ohio State ending a major, Ohio State is a major public university. If they end a major, that can have repercussions on the rest of the field. Many people feel really strongly about physical education, just as they do about anything that they dedicate their life and studies to. So I just thought that it would be important to kind of give someone who's going to be suffering, or not suffering the consequences, but give someone who's going to feel the effects of this the opportunity to explain how they feel about it.
Thanks for listening. Check in next week for more student perspective on the Student Slant.